Hello everybody, this is Graeme Anderson, and today I'm going to be looking at Battle of the Bards. Now in this game you're going to be doing a little bit of light deck building with dice pool building and a lot of dice manipulation. You'll be rolling a bunch of dice, activating your band's abilities to try and have a good performance to try and capture the audience. When I first looked at the box I was intrigued by the theme of the Battle of the Bands type game, and although I'm generally not a big fan of the random die rolls, I do really enjoy manipulating dice through my abilities, and that's what this game seemed to be offering, so I knew I wanted to get it to the table. So, will this game be coming back for an encore, or will it be booed off the stage? Let's get it to the table, see how it's played, and I'll come back for my final thoughts of Battle of the Bards. So here's Battle of the Bards set up. Shuffle the audience deck and turn over the top 3 cards and the top card on the deck. Take the top 4 cards from the Veteran Bards deck to create a Veteran Bard lineup. All players are given the same set of starting cards, and next shuffle all the leads and give 1 to each player. Players will take a matching performance token and 2 dice of the same color as their lead. All players will then add their leader to their starting deck and shuffle them and draw 5 cards. All players are given an Encore card, which is used at the end of the game to determine who gets a bonus 4 points. Give 1 player the first player token and you're ready to go. The game is played over a number of rounds until 1 player has captured 4 audience cards. At that time each player will reveal their Encore card, have a roll off, and then we go into final scoring. During a round, players will first choose 3 cards from their hand and place them face down in front of them on the stage. Let's have a quick look at the cards. The basic Bard cards, the ones in your starting deck, will have the following: the name and the dice you will get when the performer takes the stage, and the special ability cost and the ability across the bottom. Wanted posters, when played onto the stage, copy the newest Bard in town from the Veteran Bard lineup, and a wanted poster in your hand will allow you to hire a Veteran Bard during the round. A Veteran Bard works almost the same as your basic starting Bards, except it will be worth victory points and might have a sustain ability, which I will talk about in a bit. The last cards are the audience cards. They will show you which performance tokens you need to spend, their point value, and a permanent in-game ability. Once all players have placed their face-down cards on their stage, reveal them, and in player order, each player will take the dice as shown on the Bards that have taken the stage. Note that any Bards that come on stage during the round do not come with any dice. Once all players have taken their dice, all players will roll them. Next, in turn order, each player will put on a show and take their actions. For an action, if you have a straight of 3 dice, like a 1, 2, or 3, or 3, 4, 5, you can create a performance. Discard the 3 dice and take a token that reflects the majority color of the discarded dice. So if you have 2 purple and a blue die that make up the straight, you would take a purple performance token. If there's not a majority, that is all 3 dice are different, you can choose a performance token matching any of the discarded dice. Another action you can do on your turn is to use a Bard ability. You can use any of the Bards that are face up in front of you on stage. Most of them have a requirement, like placing a 4 or lower die on them. So you assign a matching die to the card, and it will no longer be used, or it can no longer be stolen during this round as well. Execute the abilities from left to right. If you cannot fulfill any requirements of an ability, you do not continue on with the other abilities on the card. You can only use each Bard's ability once per round. If you gain a die, roll it and add it to your die pool. A sustained ability from a Veteran Bard can be used in one of 2 ways. You can either get an extra action during this turn, or you can rotate the card sideways and gain the ability that's on the side of the card. And remember, if you have a wanted poster on stage, treat it as a copy of the newest Bard in town and it gets all the same abilities and requirements to activate those abilities. For another action, you can hire one of the Veteran Bards. You must discard a wanted card from your hand plus any other card from your hand, along with 2 dice with matching numbers, to hire any of the Bards from their Veteran Bards lineup, except the newest Bard. That will need 3 matching dice. Take the new Bard and place it in your discard pile, and then refill the Veteran Bards lineup. You can, for an action, capture an audience. You must discard the appropriate number and types of performance tokens as shown on the card. The card on the top of the pile is only available if you pay the performance tokens and discard a card from your hand. Once captured, leave it face up beside you and the permanent ability on the audience card is active for the rest of the game. Then you refill the audience area. As a free action, you can also discard a tune token or a card to tune. When you discard a token or card, you can increase or decrease a single die 1 pip up or down, but you cannot turn a 1 into a 6 or vice versa. Or, for discarding, you can also re-roll any number of your dice. The last action you can do is pass. You will be skipped for the rest of the round, and the round ends when all players have passed. So once all players have passed, you discard all the cards in front of you, then discard all cards from your hand. At this time, you can choose to fire any of those cards from your hand and permanently remove it from the game. All players redraw a hand up to 5 cards. Keep any dice not discarded, including the dice assigned to Bards. You can only keep 8 dice at the end of the round, and you have to discard any excess. And the first player token moves to the next player. These rounds will continue until player has captured 4 audiences. That will signal the end of the game. At the end of the round that the player captured the 4th audience, you go into the Encore round. During the Encore round, all players discard all the dice that they have and reveal their Encore cards, and for each veteran bard that the player has purchased during the game that corresponds to one of the symbols in the Encore card, they will take 1 die. All players will then roll all their dice that they have got through their Encore card, and the player with the highest total wins the Encore round and gains an additional 4 points. Any ties are re-rolled until there is a clear winner. Finally, all players add up their score. Each leftover performance token is worth a point, points from the captured audience cards, points from the hired veteran bards, and the winner of the Encore round. And whoever has the most points is the winner. Let's get back to see what I thought about Battle of the Bards. Let's talk theme and components. The theme is really fun. The idea of making a band and sending them on stage to win over the audience is something different, and it just works. The mechanisms don't necessarily match the theme with all the dice rolling manipulation, but the flow of the game and the look really makes me think of a Battle of the Bands competition. As for the components, I think with the art style you're either going to really like it or really dislike it. I came down on the side of liking the art style. The cards are good quality, as are the cardboard components, and the first player token is large and kind of gaudy, and I think that this works perfectly well for an idea of rock bands. The dice are really nice, and the colors are easy to tell apart. The iconography on the cards is not always as intuitive as I would like, but you know what? On the back of the book, it kind of gives you a quick reference, so it's easy enough to look up what all the different symbols do if you need that. So on to the gameplay. The gameplay really comes down to set collection. Collect the different performance tokens to trade it in to capture the audiences, and I like that. It's nice and simple and easy to explain, and it just kind of makes sense with the theme. So, even though each round starts with playing cards to hopefully get the dice you want out or the special abilities you want out, it never felt overly long. All players are doing this at the same time. You play cards face down, reveal them, collect the dice, and then roll. This part is really nice and quick. Now the action phase though does take some time for each player to go through, and you kind of have to wait for them to go through their turn. There's a lot of cards that you get that allow you to get more dice or more people up on stage, and it can be a little slow. You're kind of looking at your dice, trying to see what you can do. Oh, maybe I can use a die in this character to get another die and roll it. Now I have another die I have to look at. Or, now I have a straight, but it's not, it's the wrong color. So maybe I want to use the ability to do something else. Now this section is the heart of the game, so I'm okay with a little bit of downtime, and ultimately there's only 2 things you can do with your dice. That's either get a performance token or hire a veteran bard, I should say. But you're just kind of working on manipulating your dice, which I enjoy the mechanism, but it's not as enjoyable to watch other people do it. But you know what? Sometimes it just doesn't work out for you because of the randomness. You can definitely have some optimal turns where you just kind of achieve almost nothing with your dice, or you just can't get the performance tokens you need for the audience cards out there, and there's no way to flush those audience cards. But it is rare that you know that at the beginning of your action phase. You're almost always able to use a die to activate a card ability or discard a card to manipulate the die ability. It doesn't always work out in the end, but you can almost always anyway, manipulate your die pool during your turn. But this game is a random game. Even with all that manipulation, it is at heart a random die roll. Now, I did like getting the new veterans into my lineup and being able to thin my deck by firing some of the band members. But honestly, the game felt a little too short, and I never felt I had a really good chance to make a truly unique deck of cards. I was more just kind of minorly augmenting my initial deck. I did find the times that I tried to make a great deck of veteran bads that the other players had already captured a few audience cards, and I kind of couldn't catch up. Because those audience cards can't be worth up to 7 points. They range from 4 to 7. Now, there is some player interaction in the game. There's a steal ability in some of the veteran bands as the sustain ability, but it's not really a steal. It's more like an exchange. You take one of their dice and you give them one of yours, and you both can either keep the die face that you get or you can re-roll it. Now, there is a rule variant that changes that swap to a true steal if you would prefer to play that way. Now, there is one thing I really wasn't a fan of, and that was the Encore round. It comes down to a die roll for 4 points. You can be working your ways by making sure you buy the right veterans that match your Encore card, but I just wasn't a big fan of that single die roll. You can still manipulate your dice with the tune tokens if you have any left, but I would almost prefer to have the Encore cards just give you points for completing it instead of what it is. Because if you spend the entire game collecting the veterans on your card, you could still not get those 4 points. That just didn't sit well for me. So would I recommend this game? You know what? Yes, I would. I did enjoy the theme, and although I'm usually not a fan of the masses of die rolling, I did like the main piece of the game that was manipulating the dice. I liked the abilities the cards gave me, and the ability to do some light deck building by modifying my deck with new band members. The game is also a good length, about 45 minutes for 3 players. But I wasn't a big fan of the Encore round, in which the Encore is more like a traditional endgame objective card. And the game is highly random. Sometimes people can just get lucky and roll nice and get 2 performance tokens and capture an audience card all in the same turn. And you just can't seem to get anything going. But I've never seen a runaway leader in the game, but I did find that the game came down to the player who got the 4 audience cards was more likely going to win because those audience cards are worth 6 or 7 points each, or could be worth 6 or 7 points each. But with all that, I'm still going to give Battle of the Bards a 7 and a Dice Tower seal of approval. And that's it for the moment. Until next time, thanks for watching.